Hey, everybody, I'm Garrett,
And I'm Zachary, and we are the two principal consultants here at EOS Experiential Consulting.
and we want to ignite positive change in your experiential programs. Today, we've got a really great conversation. We've planned out to talk about some of those just experiential TV shows that we all know, from either our youth or seeing it on TV as it was coming. And I know I have a lot of positive memories about it. Zach, what about you?
Oh, for sure. It's as a lifelong conservationist, core of my being really started with exposure to the sciences, to
Yeah.
the experiential process, to the scientific process. And I think these shows, if nothing else, gave me a window into a world that growing up in a little tiny farm town in Northwest Ohio was just not feasible, right? So these
Right.
shows were super impactful.
Yeah. See, it's great that you can have that kind of conservation connection to it. I think maybe the area that I grew up or just something like that just didn't have a strong focus on the conservation side of things, which is an awful shame. Awful shame. I'm so happy to see people like Wildcrats, always putting that positive spin, always adding that little extra what you can do, in your area. I wish I had that. I wish I had Wildcrats when I
Right.
was that age. Um,
See,
but I
now,
can
now that's funny
definitely,
you say that because
yeah.
I did, right? I grew up right in that perfect window where Zaboomafoo was huge, and Chris and Martin Kratt, who later went on, of course, to do the Wildcats. That's where they got their first really big start was with Zaboomafoo.
Oh wow, I see, and I had no idea that that's where they came from. I think maybe I did at a time, like
Mm-hmm.
I had heard that. Yeah, I don't know Zaboomafoo as well. Again, I wish so much that someone could have exposed me to that at that young age.
Right.
Because now my nieces and nephews love Wildcrats. They
Sure.
love, of course, right now they're that age. They just want to see the animal. They just want to
Right.
see the thing move. But that's the purpose. That's the point. You know,
Right.
my I can remember my earliest engagement with any experiential education programming show, anything was just bits and clips of Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
all Bill
That's the
Nye.
classic, right?
Yeah, in like fourth grade physical science, uh, just watching him goof off, do those experiments and stuff,
Right.
and I mean it's a big deal to be able to see that because again, I think it mostly comes down to the area I grew up in, rural, poor. Just we didn't have the money to do big crazy experiments, right? I've never been inside a real chem lab and done any sort of real huge chemical based experiments that you always see like the high schoolers on Disney
Yeah.
Channel and stuff
Yeah.
doing,
Yeah.
right? No, that never happened for me. So it was really great to watch Bill Nye do these simple things and get
Right.
to do some of those. Just these balloon tricks. Here you
Mm-hmm.
go. Here's this cool little thing. Uh, yeah, I
No,
absolutely loved it.
I think what you're like really honing in on here is that these shows, right? We've listed a couple already. They make it accessible, right? They
Yeah,
take what seems big and expensive and cumbersome and logistical nightmares for institutions, schools, parents, and they
yeah,
make it practical with objects they may find around the home, right? It's the same scientific concept. They've just
yeah,
found a way to recreate that experiment in a way that any family, can do with what they have lying around the kitchen, the bathroom, the bedroom, right? And that I think that accessibility really plays into, what I said, the awareness, right? So awareness and accessibility to me are two of the biggest proponents of experiential based, whether it's STEM learning, whether it's history, whatever it may be. I think that's really cool. Any thought to why most of these shows generally lean towards sort of a STEM background? Why is it that most of the ones that maybe it's just the ones that become popular, right, and get
yeah, maybe.
nationally syndicated? Maybe it's the eclectic nature of the host, right, that has a STEM background. We know scientists can be a little quirky, right, and that plays well on screen. But why might you think that these shows are the ones that really gain traction, the STEM based ones?
The STEM based ones, so
Mhm.
specifically like Bill Nye and
Yeah,
what
yeah.
he
Bill
does.
Nye, Emily's Wonder Lab just blew up on Netflix, right? I
Yeah,
think
it
there's a
did.
there's a couple more recent options too. Why are those the ones that,
And
that gain?
tons and tons of little channels are blowing up on YouTube
Sure.
and even Twitch, I think. Yeah, man. I think a lot of it just comes down to that, to the want of a kid to explore. Anytime you're going to get that kid who really wants, or from my experience personally, children want to be engaged. Whoa, big shocker. Children want to do these things that engage their curiosity, that push them forward, and they want to do that with someone who has those quirks, like you're saying, who has that kind of drive to just do the silly stuff, but still make it fun and educational. Kids might not even know about that last word, the fact that it's education, right? But that's kind of, I think, what drives so many of them is not just the host being an engaging person, but just the fact that I think all children have this natural drive to want to do something fun and creative.
Sure. Yeah. It's a big factor for sure. That curiosity driven learning. I think the just kind of to supplement there, the sciences are so obscure, right? There's always something new, right? Entomologists on average discover 100 new species, for example, right? So there's so much still to be discovered, that when a child feels like they have the opportunity to be the one that solves the case, right? That's a really cool and exciting way to get them engaged, right? Which is what it's all about, because it's difficult. We've done virtual programs. Yeah, it's difficult to find a way to get the learner on the other side of the screen when you're talking to them to be engaged, right? And to stay engaged for 30 minutes to an hour. To do that on a pre-recorded show, you have to reach a wide demographic, but also make it feel like you're specifically talking to Timmy, specifically talking to Susie at home, right? And make them feel like they're having a conversation with Bill Nye. And I think that's what his character, because obviously it is a character at the end of the day, his characterization of, that mad scientist really found a cool way to do it. One other key thing I might jump in there is that a lot of times these shows also have kids just like them on there, right? So they feel represented, that the kids there are the ones. It's not Bill, the only person on the screen for 30 minutes. It's him on there maybe 50% of the time, and the other time is kids doing the experiments alongside as sort of his assistants, which is a cool way to play it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we see that still today. There's so many things where, these particular demographics may not be represented. So those demographics don't engage in the product. Well, we don't feel like we're a part of that product. So why should we engage with it at all? So yeah, that's a massive, that's a very good point. That you see yourself, oh, I want to be just like that kid. That kid looks cool. He's right there next to Bill Nye. And I personally know so many people who would love to meet Bill Nye, and I'm sure you, throughout your entire youth, would love to have been in a room with Zaboomafoo,
Right. True. And I think you also bring up a good point there about the representation and the different demographics. I know one of the biggest goals with the Bill Nye Show was to bring minorities and women into the sciences, into engineering. I have engineers in the family, and they're constantly referencing how in the past 10, 15 years, there's been a shift, right, on women in engineering, on minorities in engineering, and the other STEM fields. And a lot of that, I'm sure, can be placed back to the engagement, the accessibility, the awareness brought around by shows like Bill Nye, right? They really laid the groundwork needed to bring this next generation, right? Because if we're limiting ourselves to only a certain sect of people that can be engineers and that can be scientists and that can be any other role, then we're kind of limiting ourselves on the brain power out there, right? And shows this expand that, and that's a really cool thing to see. As a conservationist, I would love to continue to see that drive fuel our industry, right?
Yeah, and I completely agree. It was wonderful to see, while the pandemic had really first started, we kept saying, you and I, that we're someone's going to come in and make this big experiential thing. Someone's going to bring more and more education into the household in an easy format. And it was wonderful to see Netflix take that on, not with some standard practice, anything. They took an intelligent woman, put her front and center, and let her do her thing. Let her be her personality. Let her really flex for muscles.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's wonderful to see that. I can't think of another mainstream service
Sure.
that has promoted such a strong female presence in the STEM field.
And I think what really backs it up, Emily Calandrali, for anyone who doesn't know, host Emily's Wonder Lab. She was an engineer at MIT, right? She had
Right.
10, 15 years of field work, of lab work, of experiential work, and then was able to launch her personality, which is an engaging persona, into this show, right? And using that kind of leverage point into hosting Emily's Wonder Lab, which is a really impactful show. I know my niece and nephew love it, right? They've done tons of the experiments at home. I'm sure most of you guys out there can probably have that same experience with the kids over the past year, trying to find ways to engage them, supplement, any sort of educational loss with experiential education in the home is,
Right.
obviously what we get excited about, right? That for us is, it's such an impactful way of learning, and it's accessible, right? And I think it's really cool that they've put her on, not put on a pedestal, but gave her this platform, right, to reach so many people over the past year, for sure. And it just synced up well, right? There were tons of businesses that have struggled from the pandemic, and me and you both said there's ways not to, just survive, but thrive in this time. And experiential learning has moved into really cool platforms and different ones. I think you've mentioned a couple off the cuff here already. It's great to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the recorded format is probably the best way to, or was the best way to really get that out there. It was wonderful to see several zoos. There were so many doing it.
Oh yeah.
To just record this 15-minute spotlight with an animal right there on camera, do something engaging with the animal. Maybe it's, show it in a training format, maybe show it in a feeding format, and then just maybe explain its dietary habits, maybe explain some of its behavioral habits, and then go into that. It's really nice to see the industry, people who are not Bill Nye the Science Guy, these massive famous people, still taking on that really engaging personality, showing what that experiential ed background can bring to the table, can push forward to, like you said, thrive in that climate at the time, which we're still not out of, but
yeah, no, I think you raise a good point there, and it's something we've seen at previous institutions, right? We've worked on the same education team before, and you're limited by resources, and you're limited by, again, accessibility to either behind the scenes areas or to keepers in general, animal care staff in general. And when those two are synchronized, when they're working together, we've said before that we can create some really engaging content to reach beyond just our local demographic. We can reach regional, we can reach national, we can reach global demographics and populations with the right engaging content, right? And I think that's what we've seen with clients this year, is that the ones who are able to engage social media, that's the beauty of social media, right? Whether you're a big, massive institution or you're a little tiny institution, your budget is going to be different, right? No doubt about it. But on social media, your impact is pretty much leveled out. And you can reach tons of people with one viral video, one viral series, right? That's all it takes for you to be a bright spot. And we've seen them pop up, the small regional science center, the small regional zoo, the outdoor camp that is down the road and only has 20 staff members, have these big social media platform and following, because they have people that are willing to take risk and people that are willing to dive into this next era of engaging content. And necessity does further along invention, for sure. And for everything that's gone wrong this past year, spurring on engaging media through social media has been a really big win, I think, for experiential education.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was really nice to see some of those communities to rally around each other, and just sharing some of these videos like wildfire, trying to spread those smaller institutions, trying to just show the comparisons between, what you can do, what you are doing, was really, really massive, and still is.
Yeah. And the social norm is changing, for sure.
What's that?
The social norm is changing.
Absolutely.
What's allowed, right? What's a faux pas, and what can be encouraged from these institutions, which is amazing, something we've been pushing for a decade now.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. But and it is wonderful to kind of be on the bleeding edge too,
Mm-hmm.
right? To see all of this new engagement come out. And I really, really hope and advocate, that these videos, these pushes, these things that people are doing need to stay.
Right.
We need to maintain that. Maybe it doesn't need to be pushed to the absolute degree because it was the
It's an
only thing
allocation
we
of
were doing,
resources for sure.
right?
Yeah.
But we don't need to lose the passion to put out that video content, because it can be such a big difference to see your local zoo has just put out this awesome video that you've never seen before. You've never gotten to see that animal get that close to anything. You've never gotten to have that one-on-one time, but still, something you can't engage with at the zoo. That's a big deal
behind
to
the
me.
barrier, right?
Exactly. It's a massive deal to me.
Yeah. And it's been really cool, like Disney Plus, for example, right? They've got different behind the zoo shows or within the zoo, right? I know the Bronx Zoo, I know Disney's Animal Kingdom have both done it. And those are series that it really highlights the conservation work at the end of the day that they're doing, right? So that's the big push. It supports with funding,
right,
a bunch of different platforms, which is
well, at the end of the day, the inspiration facet of it is truly why anything we've talked about yet does what they do. We need to inspire change. We need to inspire new people in the industry. And I don't know, it's wonderful to see more of it now.
Sure.
Like I said, when I was young, especially in the area I grew up in, this stuff didn't exist here. It didn't, it was not of value. So it's wonderful to be able to reach outward.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to look at just this local community. I can look further and try and help my local community, my local zoo, with what I'm seeing outward, what I'm seeing outside.
It's cool. It's really exciting to see that next wave come, and it'll be great to see. We've already seen a shift in demographics, and hopefully that trend does continue upwards. I would be confident that it will as we reach more people with science, with experiential education, with education in general.
Me and you personally have already seen that clients, children, people want to engage with this virtual format. They want to have this back and forth. Even after everything comes full open again, I see no reason for this to truly leave the system.
No, yeah, it's definitely going to be integrated moving forward. It's how we continue to do so. And, we'll continue to see more shows like this pop up. We'll see more series pop up on YouTube and Twitch for sure. And it's really exciting to see that next wave and how experiential education can continue to find its way into the home, into different institutions, kind of moving forward, right?
Yeah. Oh, of course it is. Of course it is. And it's always such a pleasure, to see the kids engaged, to see it, to be the person even who maybe got to write that script that's being read, to be the person who is presenting at that moment, and just be a part of the change that we want to bring forward.
Exactly.
It's one of those things. It's the passion that drives, right?
It most certainly is. Exciting topic today. Thanks for the chat, Garrett.
Of course, Zach.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us today as we talked about our favorite experiential shows. I'm sure you guys, of course, have some that were really impactful when you were growing up. So in the comments down below, let us know who your favorite experiential show was. It Boomerfoo? Was it the Wildcats? Did you grow up watching Mr. Rogers, perhaps? Let us know in the comments down below. Smash that like button for us, and we will see you guys next week.